In the kitchen, Bradley and Gerald had finished shelving almost everything except the box of devil's food. Neither was exactly sure where to put it. Their mother rarely baked. Neither had seen a cake box in the house before. "Figures Dad bought something like this," Bradley snorted. "He is such a dork." "It's just cake," Gerald objected. "It's just cake," Bradley mimicked sarcastically. "Put it with the cereal," he directed. "Why don't we make it?" Gerald asked. "I don't know how to make a cake," Bradley objected. "I've got a science fair project to do." Gerald grimaced. "Sure," he said sourly. Now, he took the box and looked at the directions. "Hot water, pour in, mix, stir," he read. "How hard is that?" He glanced at Bradley. "I'll do it by myself." "No, you won't." Bradley immediately stopped him. He could envision the mess created by his 10-year-old brother and who would get blamed. "Then you do it," Gerald suggested. Making a cake seemed like an interesting project until his friends Steve and Jay returned from wherever they were. "We'll do it together," Bradley decided. The science project could wait. Besides, he wanted to get Jennifer Cosgrove to help him, and she said she wouldn't be home until later in the afternoon. She was in his biology class, lived down the street, and most importantly, was a pretty female. She also hadn't seemed appalled to acknowledge him on those rare moments he nervously said hello. Important qualifications for a 16-year-old boy. Bradley took the box. "Dumb-looking thing," he announced. "We need a pot that will hold 6 gallons of water." Gerald rummaged among the pots and pans on the shelves under the stove. He almost climbed inside the cupboard before emerging with the largest pot he could find. Hearing the jumble of cookware and the banging caused by the search, McKinley rushed out from his small office. "Keep it down," he said in a low voice. "Your mother is trying to sleep." "Sorry," Bradley said. McKinley went back to his desk. Those boys were so noisy, he had to concentrate. He started punching more numbers into the computer program. Oh, he thought. Mr. Jenkins was going to owe a lot of money to the IRS this year. He dreaded the phone call that would have to be made regarding that. "How many gallons?" Gerald asked. 6, Bradley read. He stopped. 6 gallons, none of the pots are that big. What kind of cake is this? He checked the box. "This big enough?" Gerald asked, holding up a large pot. Bradley shook his head. "The only thing big enough to hold 6 gallons is the bathtub." Gerald brightened. This was going to be a very large cake. The idea of a bathtub filled with cake seemed hysterically funny. He couldn't wait for his friends to show up. He rushed into the bathroom and turned on the tap. Bradley shuffled along behind him. Steam was already starting to rise by the time he ambled in. "I'm not sure this is a great idea," he murmured. Gerald ignored him. "How hot? How much is 6 gallons? Bradley shrugged. "I don't know, it says 6 gallons of hot water," he reported. "We can put icing on it," Gerald decided. "Should we add Jell-O, ice cream on top?" The water was slowly rising. Steam was filling the bathroom. Bradley leaned over the tub and opened the window. The early April air filtering through the screen was cool. He pulled back on the top of the simple cardboard box. It opened easily. There appeared to be residue of tape along the edges. He peered inside. The cake mix had settled a little. The flakes were dark and thin like frozen snowflakes. Bradley shook the box. The flakes barely moved. They seemed almost to have solidified into a small ball. Let me," Gerald pleaded. Bradley gave him the box. Gerald leaned over the white ceramic tub and slowly poured out the contents of the box. The flakes fell softly and gray until they hit the water, then, abruptly, they turned a bright, almost lime green. "Cool," Gerald announced. The color swirled through the rising water, deepening as it spread. Some of the flakes clung briefly to the sides, but all were eventually absorbed into the rising water. "We've got to stir," Gerald remembered with an exclamation and ran out. He quickly returned with a long-handled wooden spoon. He dipped it into the water and began to swish it back and forth. The spoon didn't seem to do much. The syrupy mixture was very thin. The spoon ran through it like an oar through a shallow lake, getting little resistance. Slowly, however, the center of the water began to solidify. Bits of green seemed to be drawn together, merging into an almost coherent pattern resembling a rectangular box with projections on the top and the sides. Happily stirring, Gerald didn't appear to notice, but Bradley could tell that this was already the strangest cake he had ever seen. That's probably enough water, he decided, placing the box by the water basin. With his left hand still holding the spoon in the water, Gerald reached over to turn off the faucet. The room grew quiet, save a last drip or two from the faucet. Then, slowly, a small green tendril began to crawl up the side of the tub underneath the tap. It inched up, almost like a long green worm. The boys stared at it, then each other. Then it reached the hot water tap and, seemingly with no effort, turned on more hot water. Abruptly, the wood spoon was spun from the boy's hand and sent arcing toward the door. Gerald drew back. "Whoa," he gasped. "What was that?" "Are you all right?" Bradley asked him anxiously. The cake was taking on a decidedly human appearance with arms and legs and a round head.